Hello there everyone and welcome to Dancing Sunflowers Layering Guide video. So first up, I've stamped the images from the stamp set onto some white cardstock using some obsidian black ink. I'm then going to take the first of the stencils and I'm going to pop that into place onto the largest of the sunflower images. And these are going to colour the petals that are in the front of the other ones. For this one, I am using the pink diamond ink to add those in. I'm then going to shift that stencil up, and this is going to add in the darker shading to these petals. And for these ones here, I am going to be using the Pinkalicious to add in those darker points. Once that's done, I can then move that stencil down again, and this is going to add in those little leaves that you can see in the bottom left. For these ones here, I am going to be using the marshland ink. The same with this tiny little petal that's poking up through the flower too. And then going to move on to the second stencil, and as I already have my marshland ink out, I am going to ink up these little leaves that you can see here on the right hand side of the flower. I can then go ahead and then pop in the rest of the leaves for this flower, again using that marshland ink. I'm using a mini ink blending tool, but you could use a larger one if you wished. This same stencil also has the back petals on this one, so I am going to pop those into place, and for these ones here I am going to be using the rubellite just to add in that base layer there. I can then move the flower center into position, and this is going to be the darker points of that flower center, and I am going to be using the Snapdragon ink to add those in. So once that's done, I can remove that stencil and then move on to a stencil number 3. This one has the darker points for the leaves on for this large image here. So I am going to add these into place using some of the Sea Forest ink just into there. Once that's done, I can move the stencil up, and this is going to add in the darker points to the darker petals. So for this one here, I will be using the raspberry ink to add those darker shadings in. Once that's done, I can move that over again and then add in the flower center. This is the base of it, so this one I am going to be using the chamomile ink to add in those lighter shades. I'm then going to move on to stencil number 4, and this is going to do the other image that we have. I'm going to be using the same colours as before. So for the petals that are mostly in the foreground or the forefront, I will be using the pink diamond ink to add those into place. I can then move in to the other petals, which are the ones further back, and for those I will be using that rubellite ink to give us that darker shade in the background. Once that's done, I'm going to pop the flower center into place. So for the base of this one, I will be using the chamomile ink again as before. Once that's done, I can remove that stencil and then move on to stencil number 5. I can then pop in the darker points for the petals that are in the background, and for that I will be using the raspberry ink to add those into place. I'm then going to move in to the other petals, and for this one here I will be using the Pinkalicious to add in those darker points and shading to those petals. Once that's done, I can then pop in the flower center, and this one I will be using the Snapdragon to add in that second layer. For the little berries that we have on the side, I will be using the Snapdragon again. Once that's done, we're going to move on to the final stencil, and this is going to allow us to kind of colour in all of those little leaves the first time round for the base. This time I'm going to be using the marshland ink for those ones. Once that's all covered, I can then move the shadow pieces into place, and I will be using the Sea Forest ink just to add in those darker points there. And that is all the layering complete. We really do hope this video helps. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again really, really soon. Bye bye.